You're listening to the Mind Your Own Business podcast, aimed at helping photographers learn how to make the leap from amateur to pro. Hello and welcome to the Mind Your Own Business podcast, a joint effort brought to you by Photofocus and Skip Cohen University. This is Shamira Young, and I'm joined by my co-host and better podcasting half, Skip Cohen.
Wow.
Skip,
better
how are you?
podcast. I like to think of myself really as your better podcasting quarter, because 3/4 of this wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you, but it wouldn't make any sense to people. So thank you. I will be your better podcasting half.
It's true.
How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you doing?
We're doing good. We're bored with the pandemic just like everybody else is, but what a kick today's podcast is going to be. And if you're good with it, I'm just going to roll right into my intro.
Go for it.
All right, so we've got Jerry and Melissa Ghionis, however you want to butcher his last name. It really is Ghionis. They're in the house, and they are a power couple. Jerry's a grandmaster in WPPI. He's a winner of Album of the Year 8 times, I think. Maybe it's more. And if I have to share all of his awards, we'll never get to the podcast. And Melissa, with her incredible focus on customer service, organizational skills, and she's an outstanding presenter, is another one who's a leader in education. They complement each other so well, and they're leaders in education and support for an industry that all of us, including all 4 of us on this podcast, love so dearly. Now, I have to admit it's tough for me to do this introduction because I know them both so well, and we've shared so much time together over the years and a lot of laughs. So let's get to the podcast, talk about the challenges of the pandemic, working with your spouse, growing together as a couple, and I'm willing to bet that even puppies are going to come up in the topic lineup today. So, Jerry and Melissa, this is going to be the cue for your lips to actually move here. Welcome to Mind Your Own Business.
Thank you for having us. This is going to be so much fun.
This is great catching up to you. And
Thrilled to have you.
Yeah, and I've already promised a couple of stories that I wouldn't tell, so this is what happens.
Oh, we have stories. We have lots and lots of stories.
Oh, the suspense. I love it.
And yeah, I agree. I think the puppies should definitely come into it. The puppies have kept us sane this year, that is for sure.
Oh, here too.
Well, let's kick it off with our favorite first question, just in case any of our listeners don't know who you both are. Tell us how you got started doing what you're doing. Tell us about your background.
Ladies first.
Well, I started photography in 1999, so it's been a long time, and just started as a side gig while I had a day job and photographed weddings on the side and on the weekends, and loved it, and just started doing it more and more. And then I started continuing my education, was going to workshops and conventions, and I eventually went full time. And then I had a wedding and portrait studio in Boston. That's where I got my start, and that's where I was born and raised, and did that for many years. And then about 11 years after that, after I got started and was all settled, I met this Australian photographer.
Hey.
I met him because I went to a seminar and fell in love with his work, and he completely changed my work. Went to his workshop and he completely changed my business. And we became.
You talking about Mercury or Jerry?
My favorite Australian. And it was the first time I had met Jerry. And so we became friends for many years, and I would see him at different conventions like WPPI and that kind of thing. And then years later, after that, we reconnected because we had both gotten divorced by then and were working on our own. And we started talking, and then I just sold everything in Boston, moved to Australia, got married, and we decided to start working together. And that's what we've been doing ever since. We talked briefly when we first got together about running concurrent businesses, because I had my business set up, he had his. But that quickly went out the window, and I really love the business side of it, even more than the creative side. And no one's more creative than Jerry. So we actually fit together like a glove when we got together. And it's been 10 glorious years ever since. How about you,
Aw.
Jerry?
Aw. Yeah, I was given my camera at the age of 15, my first camera, and I, excuse me, I fell in love with the craft. I became obsessed and shot every genre you can possibly imagine to work out which direction I'd go in. I did what I had to do to pass high school, but I knew I wanted to be a photographer, so I just had fun and played around and did what I did. After high school, I worked at a few camera shops. There was a 4-year course that I wanted to do, and after a year, I quit that photography course because they were teaching me what I call the algebra of photography. And I prefer street smart. I'm not a fastidious book smart kind of a guy. I just want to learn in the action of doing the work. So I did that. I quit, and then I approached a studio that was very popular at the time. Walked in, I said, I want to hold your bags. I don't want to get paid. Just let me see what you do. And I did that for about a year and a half with no pay. And then I worked for that company for about 3.5 years. I started my business in '97 at the back of a charcoal chicken to-go food store in the peak of the recession in Australia. Interest rates were 28%. We lost our family home. I remember going home and the water got turned off, the gas got turned off, the electricity got turned off, the car that was my brother's got repossessed, and I am a 19-year-old. Literally with nothing. But I built this business literally from a first year doing 25 weddings, then 50 weddings a year after, 100 weddings. And then I convinced the landlord above the building to actually build a second level above the building. So it took me a year to convince him, a year to build. And then we built this, probably one of Australia's largest studios. At my peak, I was doing 100 weddings personally. Our studio was doing 300 weddings and countless portraits. And built that business. My brother bought into it. So my business started at '97. I sold that business completely to my brother in 2007. So I'm basically on my 27th year shooting professionally, teaching professionally for 20 years. Moved to the US, met this incredible woman, probably the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my life. We got married about almost 10 years ago, and life has been incredible ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it. I mean, there's serendipitous things that have happened. I broke up with my ex, and Melissa's ex broke up with her on the exact same day. We woke up to each other's news. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, there's so many, that's a whole podcast in itself, but there are so many things that if they didn't happen, serendipitously, we wouldn't be together right now. So, yeah.
Well, I remember you guys coming. I'm not too old yet. I should start saying I still remember. I remember you guys spending a weekend with us in Ohio when Sheila and I lived there. And I remember Jerry, you and I were sitting at the counter in the kitchen. And to this day, you are the only photographer that I have ever met who essentially composes the album while he's shooting the event. Mm. And I've never met anybody that can do that. I've never met anybody that has a brain that works that way. And it just blows me away that as you're shooting, you're saying to yourself, ooh, this is a double page spread, or this is going to be stunning black and white. And it amazes me the way you put the album together. And then Melissa, I still laugh over the presentation you did at Skip Cohen University, where your whole point was to make we had roughly 350 people that summer program. And your whole point was to get everybody to understand that you need to be comfortable in your own skin and your presentation. And you got up and you stumbled and you stuttered and you were nervous. And I was in the back, pooping in my shorts thinking, oh my God, how could we let her present? And then all of a sudden you went, now, weren't you guys uncomfortable with my presentation?
Yeah,
I've got sweat coming down the back of my neck and the back of the room because it was so well done. So the two of you, when I said before my intro that you complement each other, you truly do. And that's kind of the perfect segue to just talk a little bit. I don't want this to become, and Shamara doesn't either, we don't want this to become a, what did I do during the pandemic podcast? Because we've all listened to so many of those. But Jerry, you wound up with COVID-19 And Melissa, you put out the word on Facebook, and we were all sending prayers and thoughts. But let's talk about things you guys have done to stay focused and stay positive, because hunkering down is about your health. It's not about your business and relationships.
Yep.
Well, man, it was a bit of a whirlwind. So, for some reason, I don't know what it was, but I saw the writing on the wall with the pandemic very, very early, probably about 2 weeks before everyone started freaking out about it. And, when the shelves got empty and for some reason everyone's full of crap and they wanted to buy toilet paper. I don't know what it was, but my protective nature just sunk in, and every 2 days I did something to protect my family. So if the electricity turns off because electricity workers couldn't do something, or gas or water or whatever, food, supplies, I every second day for the 3 weeks before everyone really got on board, I did all that. And to be honest, at that point, I think I probably got it, because I was one of the earliest people to get it. And even though that I was very strict with, masks and even wearing gloves and things like that. So I realized at one point I got it, and it was very disconcerting, because, when you do a full deep breath and it hitting the ceiling at halfway and getting all the traditional symptoms of, nausea and diarrhea and being tired and all that kind of stuff, and that lack of taste and smell, and sweats. And I remember going to the hospital the first time, and they didn't have any testing because testing wasn't available back then. And then on the second time that I went, I'm sitting on the beanbag, I'm watching TV, I felt my body boiling literally, and my feet were freezing. And I asked Melissa to check my temperature, and it was 105. And Melissa says, "Let's go to the ER." And I'm like, "No, I'm just tired." It's like 11:30 p.m. and I'm like not thinking clearly.
He was really not thinking clearly, and I didn't know what to do, because how am I going to get this big man off the couch and into the car to go to the hospital? It was scary.
Yeah, so we finally went, and I had half a gallon of saline put in me. I had 130 beats per minute. I didn't realize how serious it was until that moment. And then they gave us some medication. Obviously, there's no vaccine or anything like that, but we did some breathing exercises that Melissa sort of found Chris Cuomo did, who famously got it from CNN. Anyway, so we survived it, but all in all, to get my stamina back, to get my purpose back, my Jerry drive, as I call it, it took me like 10 weeks from the first symptom to the end to get it. And I didn't realize how close I was to the ultimate. So we certainly always have had an appreciation for life and appreciation for each other in every moment. We're just those kind of people, but to sort of cross that there, and then seeing people all over the world, let alone in our industry, talk about conspiracy theories and all that crap. And I'm like, man, you don't know how serious this is. And even if you survive it, I lost 10 weeks of my life with not being productive. So yeah, but it was a tough time, but we quickly sort of woke up from that slumber, and I've been the most productive I think I've ever been in my life in the last several months.
Yeah, I think that we're probably more, as we were going through it, we were just trying to get Jerry healthy again and better. And so we were so focused on that. I think we're probably more scared now looking back at how serious it was than we were in that moment. We knew it was serious, but we probably realized how close he was to not making it now. And so we just were trying to get through each day. But like Jerry said, now it's just lit a fire under us. And we're just, man, what the amount of creative projects that Jerry's working on now and what we're doing with our business is just, we're like at 200% right now, which is a lot of fun. It's been great.
Can you share some of those things that you're doing now?
Yeah.
What are some of the things when you say, Jerry, and we're doing creative things on our business, like what?
Jerry, do you want to start?
Well, maybe you can start with the web stuff that we did.
Yeah. So one of the first things that we did was, everyone talks about SEO, of course, and we have had our website for ages and just got lazy about it because we didn't have the time. We were just trying to run our day-to-day business and keep up with clients and stuff. Never bothered. We knew we had to. We just didn't have the time to do it, all with doing the keywords and, working out link backs and trying to do all the things that that you're supposed to do, but they just kind of get pushed down the list constantly. Well, now that all of our weddings and portrait sessions had been booked, we really had no excuses, right? So we still didn't have the desire to sit there and write 10,000 words, which, you know, a good SEO website with good SEO will have. So we hired somebody, and she worked with us, and it was Chrissy from iwriteyoursite.com. We had gotten a recommendation from her, and we sat down with her. She asked us all these questions about what our goals were, what kind of inquiries did we want. She looked at every page in our website, made lots of suggestions as far as what order to put things in, what images to put. She was fantastic, and we worked with her, and she helped us with all of those keywords. And during the pandemic, our inquiries shot up. So it was nice to be able to like cross one of those big things off your list that you know is going to be good for your business, but you don't want to bother with it sometimes because it's so time consuming. But now we had the time, so it was great opportunity to do that.
So that was incredible. And then I redid the price list for my weddings and portraits, and also my fashion editorial stuff. So we sort of regrounded what we want to deliver and what we want to offer. We got new collateral, so we did new gift vouchers. We did Graphy Studio, magazines. So we're basically preparing for battle. And that's the thing, is that, you know, there's no battle, but you've still got the castle, the moat, the crocodiles. You want to make sure that's all set up. You've got to make sure you have your armor, metaphorically. So I basically looked at all of those things and redid them. But that's not the exciting bit. The exciting bit is that we're involved in a couple of businesses that are non-photographic. I won't go into those too much, but basically as part of those entities that we're working on, and it's to do with the entertainment industry here in Vegas. One of the production companies said to me, "Oh, by the way, Jerry, would you like to be part of this project called Nothing But a Mask?" I said, "Well, what is it?" And he says, "Well, it's basically bringing attention to Las Vegas performers, as well as helping stop demonizing the wearing of masks." And it's basically implied with what that is featuring performers wearing nothing but a mask. And I said, look, we're in Sin City, and if you get the wrong photographers on this is going to go cheap and nasty very, very quick. So you need someone to spearhead this and do it really well and create a baseline and then bring it to the world. And then hopefully we actually get photographers and performers all around the world, collaborate and go from there. So hence now I start getting involved in the entertainment performer industry here, which is very big but very small. We probably have the most concentrated city in the world of performers. And anyway, so here he is. He gives me 3 performers to photograph. So I start photographing, and then I just get addicted, because these performers, if you're talking about perfectionism and about relentless pursuit to achieve your desired results, and the collaborative efforts of, hey, by the way, can you do this with your body? Can you do this? Can you do that? Consequently, I bought a truss for my studio that rolls out of the studio. So basically they can suspend, and we can do silks, and we can do whatever. Since then, I mean, we did a week blitz where I photographed like 10, 12 performers. Cut a long story short, the whole idea is that we're bringing attention to this. And I'm not a stupid man, so I'm not... This is not all for charity, so to speak. I'm going to monetize it with education, and I'm also planning an exhibition and a book. I really feel the body of work that I'm doing is probably among the best that I've done in my career. And
for sure.
I'm really enjoying it, and I feel like this will bring me out of my wedding and portrait realm. I mean, the last 4 or 5 years I've been doing a lot of fashion work, but people still know me as a wedding portrait photographer who dabbles in fashion. And lately, I still do all those things, but I think this really has the power to transcend me to a different community and to the public realm. So I'm excited about that. And consequently, one of these performers we've hired full time. He's now a full time social media person for us, / personal assistant, because we've just grown. We have a full time filmmaker and producer. So I've literally filled up 140 terabytes of footage of filming me with 2 or 3 cameras on every one of these shoots. So that's been addicting, and the opportunities that have come out of this has just been crazy. Literally 2 days ago, I said, I'm gonna hunker down. I'm gonna get in front of my computer and I'm gonna do some work, and because I need some admin time. And then my makeup artist rings me and says, "Hey, I've got this president of Peru's daughter here. She's got 660,000 followers. She's in town. She just did an interview. She's in head to toe Versace. Would you like to shoot her?" And I'm like, "Oh, just let's throw her on the pile." And all of a sudden, within half an hour, I'm doing a 4-hour shoot. She ends up by the pool, in the pool, and we ended up doing this crazy awesome stuff. And then on Saturday, I'm photographing an incredible designer who we've been working with. And then in the afternoon, I'm photographing one of the performers from the original En Vogue. So it's been amazing to live here and have that 1 degree of separation between us and these incredible performers. Even Wyatt, who works with us, his boyfriend is the marquee guy from Zumanity, the guy that you see with bald with a red mohawk. He's that guy. And like, it's incredible. I just think it's been such an incredible privilege. And when you're talking about challenges, short of dying, I know that sounds almost trivial with what I'm saying. And obviously many families have been affected with their livelihoods and everything, but taking the emotion away from that, this has probably been the most fruitful time I've had and we've had in our careers right now.
But what's also funny is, moving here to Las Vegas has been, we keep saying it to each other, has been one of the best things we've ever done, because we do have access to all of these world-class performers. And really, like, it's been wild to see these acrobats and aerialists like just flying around in the studio, and like, we pay really good money to go see them at Cirque du Soleil, and here they are in our studio. So that part's been super fun. But to be honest, none of this would have happened if we just moved here. Like, it's still all part of getting to know people and what can I do for you. So we've now been here for 3 years. And in that time, we've gotten to know, people think Las Vegas is quite big. It's actually quite small. The community here is quite small, the local people. And we've just spent our time getting to know everyone. Who are the people in our extended industry? That includes makeup artists, that includes hairstylists, that includes the modeling agencies and the people that book them and all that stuff. Just getting to know them and what can I do for you? Do you need something? And that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years or 3 years. And, it's sometimes you might be a little bit reluctant to do that because you're busy and you have other things, and you're like, well, why would I do that for you for free? But the whole goal is to get people to know who you are. And we're really, really reaping the benefits now, because Jerry's just on fire. Like, seeing the stuff that he's creating right now and seeing how like pumped he is at the end of every shoot, it's been so much fun, and it's so different from anything that I've ever seen him do. So it's been a great few months for sure.
And just to lead on that, just really quickly, probably the best thing that I've done for my creativity is ignore social media for several months. Because I feel I see in here, and every time I go on social media, look at my home feed, people are screaming about something. And I don't know about you guys, but no one has ever convinced me to change my mind about anything on social media.
That's right.
So with all the polarizing stuff that's happening in our world at the moment, whether it's religious views, political views, race, minorities, you name it. And certainly I've had my moments over the last several months where I became obsessive with all these different things. I literally have ignored it, which led me to hire someone full-time to do it, with me and for me eventually, because I find that I should be doing things that only I can do. And while people are spending 90% of their time worrying about the 10% things that happen and working literally their mental expenditures all on things that they can't control is not fruitful, I'm doing things that are fruitful. And that's just my nature,
Shamara and I did a podcast recently with Shiv Verma, and Shiv Verma made a comment that the one spinoff that's really been good out of the pandemic is that we all have time, something that we've never had before.
That's right.
And it's just interesting that you brought it up now, because there are a lot of things that you're doing that you wouldn't necessarily have been doing if you hadn't had the time to think through and And we've talked about this before, and just ask yourself, all right, what do I want to be when I grow up?
And, a lot of our time was spent, most of our wedding clients and even our portrait clients are not local, because we've moved here. And so we would have to travel a lot. And so that prevented us from really getting our teeth into any projects too. So that's been really amazing to have, like you said, the time to just manifest these dreams that we've had and to actually make them happen.
And it's crazy too. And in amongst all that, we have literally photographed 5 weddings in the past 2 months, all being interstate, with the exception of the one that was on Halloween, literally at our home. So you may of course know John Michael Cooper. So his wife Delisa's daughter got married, and Melissa was a celebrant. I was a photographer, and it was actually at our home, literally here as we speak. So it was. It was an incredible time, but yeah, and we've had portraits. It's quite funny. A lot of our portrait clients are not local. They fly to us. We give them a gold class experience. We pick them up from a hotel. I often will drive to stores and style them because they want some help with styling, because I that's part of what I do. And we photograph them. We laugh. We cry. I mean, it's been an amazing time. I can't tell you. It's been 2020. Sucks for many reasons, but I'll look back on it as some of the best times we've had, I've got to say.
Well, this is so cool. You two are such a dynamic duo. And Melissa, you mentioned earlier that Jerry was on fire. I would say you both are on fire, both of you. It's amazing how much you both are getting done and how focused you are and staying so positive. And that brings me to my next question. Can you talk about the advantages of working together as a dynamic duo and a team, and your specific roles and how they come together to move the business forward?
We know a lot of couples or teams that work together, even if they're not married. And you either can or you can't, because a lot of it does have to do with your personality and whether your personalities mesh. There are some fantastic couples who just aren't able to work together because their business lives clash, their business personalities clash. And Jerry always describes it really well. What do you say, Jerry?
I'm the driver, and she's the engine.
Yeah.
And then our team are the fuel. And without each other, we literally go nowhere. And Melissa will underplay this, but she's a beast. And I know Skip knows, but man, like we sit opposite each other, and she types literally 120 words a minute. She could be having a conversation with me coherently with joy and zeal and be literally answering like 3 emails by the time the end of the conversation. So, and we have, I don't know how many entities we have now. We probably, 4, 5, 6. I don't know what we have now. I mean, the thing is that I managed many people back in the day. I did all the payroll, the bookkeeping, the superannuation. I did everything that Melissa does, but she does it with a bigger growth, with more joy. And the thing is, the reason why we work is that, and I say this with respect, she's not really a creative person. But she's a rule follower, and she does what she needs to do, and she loves it. Like, it's really weird to have a personality that's so beautiful and joyful like Melissa's, but then as soon as you get her behind the keyboard, she's like a warrior. So basically she does what she does best, so I can do the same. And it's been incredible. I to be honest, it was a huge bonus. I didn't realize. Well, I knew that she was incredible, but after we got married and then when we got together, I didn't realize how incredible she would be, independent of our relationship. As a business manager, she's a beast. I've never met anyone like her.
It's funny because, one of the things that we've learned is what Jerry said, is to find what our strengths are, and then that's what we do. So I truly do love the business side of things and doing that, and I'm not as creative. As Jerry said, I'm a rule follower. So when I was shooting for myself, I was really good at following the rules that I had learned in photography, and I could recreate anything. But to come up with those unique concepts on my own, it just wasn't my strength, and it would stress me out. But now I have this opportunity where, I can still shoot with Jerry when I miss it. But what I love to do is to do everything behind the scenes, dealing with our clients and dealing with the business side of things, which then frees up all of Jerry's time to do what he's genius at, which is coming up with these new concepts and then executing them and just being as creative as possible, which is bringing in more business. But what we've learned that makes it work, and you can have whatever roles you want. Your roles can even just overlap if that works for you. But the biggest key, if you're working with a partner or with your significant other, is to make sure that you stay in your lane. So if you have your own tasks, you can't constantly be looking over the other person's shoulder and double checking up on them. You've got to trust each other. So there's never a point when I'm doing my thing and Jerry's like, but did you do this? And did you do it this way? And did you do it that way? And vice versa. I'm not going to stand over his shoulder while he's shooting and saying, why aren't you using a backlight, or why aren't you using a hair light over there? That's not my lane. That's not what I'm doing here. That's not what our roles are. And when one of us makes a mistake, which happens, and it will happen, it will keep happening. I learned this so much from Jerry because I have made mistakes in the past, and on whatever it is, like we're human, right? But never once has Jerry ever said, man, I wish I had done it myself because, then it wouldn't have happened this way. And there can be big mistakes that can be costly. Never once, because you know what? Once one of us makes a mistake or once something goes wrong, we're in this together. So you can't blame each other for anything if something doesn't go right. Stay in your lane, do your own tasks, but also you're in this together. And that has been really what has made it so much easier to work together. And I think it's just worked really well for us.
Yeah, it's incredible. I find that when and just on the back of that, like when we win, we both win. It's not like, well, that was my idea. I'm amazing. Melissa, you were just there, or that was her idea and whatever. So when we win, we both win. When we lose, as in something happens in the business, no matter whose fault it is, we just move forward. We don't spend time like I said, on things that we can't control. And probably the key to the happiness that we have in business and personally, we devote a room to what we do, as in we've got the studio and the casita where we shoot and teach, and then we've got the study in the house. And 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock latest, we walk out of that room, we turn the light off, we shut the lid on the computer, and we have a life. And even though that we could quote unquote achieve more, as in do more things for the business, being happy in your personal life and the clarity that you have transcends into being more fruitful when you do work. So if weekends we don't shoot weddings, and if we don't shoot portraits on the weekends, which is rare that we shoot portraits on the weekends. If we don't have any weddings on the weekends, we do not work. At 6 o'clock at night comes, we do not work. That's been the key, and we can switch from business partners to a romantic husband and wife very quickly. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Well, there's a common denominator, knowing the two of you like I do, and it's not just passion for life or passion for passion's sake, but it's also passion for quality. Mm-hmm. Neither one of you have ever done anything, at least I haven't caught you in it, that anybody could say, boy, that was kind of a half-assed attempt. They really didn't want to do that. Everything you guys attack, and you used a great word before describing Melissa as a warrior. You're both warriors in terms of quality and the way you work with your clients and the respect you have and your ability. There's that old line about, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so listen twice as much as you talk. The way you listen to your clients, the way you exceed expectations. I mean, that all of that falls under that umbrella of adding quality and maintaining a quality level of everything you do. Mm-hmm. And that's all a piece of it, including, God forbid you should just have one dog. You just had to have 2.
Yeah, we figured it was a perfect time when we were going to be stuck at home anyways. Might as well get another puppy. So we did.
Well, you mentioned it in the very beginning, and I mentioned it in my intro, but, Sheila and I, we lost Molly in February of, I guess it was 19. Mm-hmm. And then to come back by November, we decided it was time, and Sheila said, come on, let's get 2, and I'd like them to be a little bit smaller. And having 2 dogs through the pandemic has been, God, it has saved our sanity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I totally agree. It has been so much fun to to just raise a puppy and go through all those firsts and have the time to, teach them. And they've made us laugh so much. They've been the best thing.
Not only that, what's helped the pandemic, we have a ping pong table in the garage, and we have 3 spare bedrooms with 2 beds in each bedroom. And we would do like live-in workshops. And I'm like, well, the pandemic's not going anywhere. And what we would do frequently, is go in the garage and, every couple of hours we'll play a couple of games. Now, if you know Vegas, it can get ridiculously hot. And I'm like, so I said, baby, today we are going to move the 2 beds into one of the other bedrooms, and we're going to move the ping pong table in that corner bedroom. And she's like, what?
I was shocked. I was like, we can't do that. And he said, why not? And I'm like, because they're guest bedrooms. Like, that's not responsible.
I'm like, this is our house. We moved the ping pong table in there. Nothing else is in there other than a couple of chairs. And it's been crazy lately, but we would, every couple of hours would play a few games, and it's been amazing. So, like, buy a ping pong table. Go for it. It'll help your sanity. And so I don't know, man. I mean, people are freaking out and about everything, and we've been doing lots of webinars with Graphy Studio, where I rang up Maureen and I said, Maureen, what can we do to help your clients? And we've probably done about 10 now, like literally full sales and business and marketing and you name it. So I've been speaking into this little camera for like 14 hours and doing happy hour and listening to people's stories. And the crazy thing is that, people just want to be seen, heard, loved, and respected. And everyone's been so isolated, and all of a sudden someone sees you and hears you. And I'm like, well, tell me the challenges that you've had, but tell me the best thing that's happened in the past several months. And the stories have been absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. And all I can say is that for anyone listening right now, and the pandemic's still happening, which it seems to be not going really anywhere, is you've got to work. I mean, you will never get this time back. So sitting and watching Netflix and waiting for that email inbox to get filled is a waste of your time. I get it. We want comfort days. You want to eat crap. You want to watch TV. Great. But you will never get this time back. It will be the defining moment in your career, or will actually be the period in that sentence that could have been an incredible story for you. And like I said, we are as busy as ever. And people say, well, Jerry, I'm in a town that's got a hotspot. What do I do? I said, well, why don't you photograph dog portraits? Why don't you give a gift voucher for your portrait sessions for, every time a dog gets trained for a month, go out and do a portrait session. Why don't you do outdoor boudoir? Why don't you go to your local strip mall and photograph all the restaurants and charge them $100 for 20 posts a week? You get 10 of those, all of a sudden you're making $1,000 a week. I mean, there are so many opportunities right now, because social media and people are becoming more social because we're learning to connect better remotely. So when we do get human interaction, it becomes even more meaningful. And I'm like, man, there are so many opportunities out there. We've got to go get them. Simple.
And I don't know if you two have heard this, and I haven't fact-checked this myself, but I've heard repeatedly that divorce rates are up, at least here in the U.S., with the pandemic. And it's easy for people to get down on that. And people talk about their business, how the pandemic has caused their business to come to a standstill. But what I love about the both of you is that it sounds like you have strengthened not only your business, but your relationship. You both continue to grow as a couple, and not apart, but together. Everything that you two are going through this year, dealing with Jerry, you having the virus, and Melissa, you having to be with him through that, and then figuring out how to grow your business and stay productive and positive, and then have new opportunities come to the both of you. I love this serious dose of positivity that you both are bringing to our audience.
Well, let me bring a positive spin on divorce. Divorce for a wedding photographer is a wonderful thing because we have 2 more chances at photographing the wedding.
True.
I'm like, bring it on, dude. Like, I say it tongue in truth, but there's truth in it. I mean, there's going to be more, conceptions during this pandemic. There's going to be more divorces. People are going to reconnect with their families. Like, this is a serious turning point for our industry in a positive way. people have realized that time is the most important thing on earth. Health is number 2. The strength and the bond of your relationships with your family and friends follow, and then job fulfillment. People are connecting in a way that they never had before. So if we as an industry don't take advantage of it, I mean, this could be a turning point and a mini renaissance that can come out of this, which I see already happening. Like, there's no point, like I said, in this fruitless exercise of wallowing in things you can't control. It's as simple as that, you know? So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I see we're coming up to the end of our time here together. It just flies by so fast. But I want to make sure and hit our favorite final question. What advice, and I realize you both have already given a ton of advice so far, but if there's anything you feel you want to add, what advice do you have for photographers who are just starting out during these interesting times?
Ladies first.
So my advice would be, and I'm clearly biased because this is what my focus is on, but I've met so many photographers that get into photography and become a photographer because they love photography, but don't take the time to set up their business correctly, or to learn what they need to do for their business. And that does include setting up your website properly and taking that time to, learn about SEO and making sure that you've got everything in place, taking the time to make sure you've got your insurance set up and your everything that you need to be successful business-wise. And for most creatives, this is the part that we don't like. We don't like to learn how to do sales. We don't like to learn how to do marketing, but it's how you're going to survive. And it's going to mean the difference between you doing this on the side while you keep your day job, which is okay if that's what you want to do, or only doing it for a very short period of time before you become severely burnt out because you're not charging enough, because you don't understand pricing and how much you should be marking up and that kind of thing. So I hate to see photographers that become so burnt out and then quit photography, something they loved so much, because they just didn't have the knowledge that they needed to price their products and services high enough, and to set themselves up properly in the first place.
And my advice would be, to be honest, it's the same whether it's for business or creative or personal in your personal life. And I've been really preaching this for the past several years, and a lot of years for that matter, and that is focus on the process, not the result. Perfect analogy. I think people treat their business, their creativity like a diet. The business is unhealthy. Let me start working on it, because metaphorically they're looking in the mirror, they're looking a little bit, a bit flabby, they're feeling a bit unhealthy, as in I'm not getting much work. Let me now focus on the business, and then you get healthy. And again, metaphorically, you're looking in the mirror, you're feeling good, you got some abs, life is good, great. Now I can eat crap and eat Doritos and eat friggin' this, that, whatever. Then you get back. So basically, just like everyone listening to this podcast, in one time in their life, many times for me, you've either gone on a diet or you've gone to the gym, didn't see quick results, and you quit. This has to be a lifestyle choice. This is the way I eat now, as in this is what I do for my business now. So for me, and Skip knows this because I've been entering competition for so long, probably not a focus of mine the last couple of years, but, a lot of people will photograph, do a shoot, and if they don't win an award or get a silver above or win it or get a category win or whatever, they're not happy. And I'm like, even when I was so active in competition, I was focusing on the pure love for creation. And if I won or lost was of no consequence. If anything, it's sort of like, well, you say, what now? What do I do now? So focus on the process. Otherwise, if you don't hit the results, you'll never be happy. I just focus on going to the gym metaphorically. I focus on eating the right things, literally as well, to be honest, because I've been eating very good in the last several years. And trust me, it will be more fruitful. Just do what you've got to do. Don't look for quick results, because it's so funny. Everyone's looking to get rich quick. Why don't you aim for longevity? Why don't we aim for doing it slow and smooth becomes fast? That's what I believe.
Oh, this has been just amazing, all of the tips that you're giving. And I do want to make sure and ask, where can folks find you online? And are there any online programs that you're doing that we should know about?
Well, thank you so much for asking. There's so many things that we do, but the one that's really been fun lately, of course, is just watching a free webinar. We give so many different tips on lighting and posing and how to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. So if people go to jerryghionis.com/webinar, so Jerry with a J and Ghionis, Ghionis. .com/webinar, and I've got to thank Skip Cohen because he's probably pronounced that name correctly more than any other person in the industry of all time. So Skip,
Yes, that's
you've
true.
always, I think you asked me first when you were about to introduce me at a seminar way back in the day, early 2000s, and you asked me, Jerry, how do you pronounce your name? And since then, you're the only one that's got it right all those years. I appreciate that.
I just wanted to let our listeners know that for those of you that have trouble understanding anything Jerry said, we will have like a Google Translate box, and words like Renaissance and garage
I love it.
will be on the bottom so you can understand. Also, process versus process. It's so hard working with Australians. They've come to this country and they don't want to adapt and learn the language.
Wait a second. Excuse me. You adopted your culture from the English language and you just said, you know what? Let me just change these words because I can.
Oh, but
Oh my goodness.
Oh
my goodness. This is, and here I am thinking every time we have someone on with another accent, including Australian, to me, you sound so refined. And it makes me sound like a country bumpkin to myself when I'm talking to you. I love the way you pronounce your words.
Well, it actually is. And your advice was great.
No problem.
And Skip, where can we check you out online?
It's always the same answer. Everything I write is at skipcohenuniversity.com. My email is skip@mei500.com. And you'll find me on Twitter and Facebook. Nothing creative here. It's just Skip Cohen. Couldn't be easier. And Shamira, where are they going to find you?
Folks can send me an email at shamira@photofocus.com. That is my first name, CHAMIRA @photofocus.com. We love getting ideas and questions and feedback from our audience because it shapes how we move forward with this show. And we are excited to move forward, especially into 2021 and having more and more amazing guests. And speaking of amazing, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Melissa. This has just been awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
And we want to thank our listeners for joining us as well. Please tell your friends about this podcast, especially if they have the burning desire to improve their photography business into 2020 and 2021 and beyond. We look forward to having you with us next time on the Mind Your Own Business podcast, brought to you by Photofocus and Skip Cohen University.